Please note that the views expressed are those of the host or guest and are not necessarily shared by Vertex. All participants have been compensated by Vertex. This podcast is only intended for U.S. audiences and for educational purposes. It is not intended to replace discussions with your healthcare provider.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Walking with Warriors podcast, brought to you by Vertex Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, where we take a look at the sickle cell disease caregiver experience through our eyes. I'm Elle.
And I'm Patrice. As caregivers, we deal with all kinds of stress throughout our journeys. Today, we'll be talking about how we notice when we're burnt out and how we manage it. Remember, everyone's experience with sickle cell disease or SCD is different. So it's important to talk to a doctor before making any changes to your routine.
When I first started in this community, there was a term that I had never really explored before, and that term was caregiver burnout. And it really is something that hits you probably before you even think about the term itself. Have you ever experienced it?
Oh, yes. Burnout I think it's inevitable. If you're a caregiver, it's probably going to happen at some point. And I didn't realize it was coming on. I didn't realize I was at that level. I just thought I was tired or just full because there was just so much I felt on my plate. But burnout is actually beyond just being tired. And so what I realized is that someone brought it to my attention that I was a little snappy, and that perhaps I just needed some rest or a little break. And I was thinking, how am I supposed to rest? Like, when do I break? And so, I think that's probably another side of the conversation, like feeling like you can't really come back or you can't shake it.
I want us to kind of just take a few minutes to unpack the term burnout for those who are listening to us and they're not really sure what it is. So, it is more than tiredness. Let's kind of describe some of the symptoms or the manifestations of burnout. What does that look like?
For me, it looked like waking up tired after a whole night's sleep, but perhaps not rest, because we can sleep and not rest. And I would just wake up completely exhausted and just make my way. Just do what I need to do because things need to happen. I had brain fog. It was hard to remember things. It was hard to sometimes even find words. I would get frustrated very quickly over things, and that's not me. And so, when things start to affect or change your personality, then you have to take a moment and look at it. So those are some of the things.
Right. When I think about the times when I felt burnout, I go back into the extreme overwhelm. It's like all of the things all of a sudden feel like they're falling on you. And you can't, even though you're doing things, nothing is falling off your plate. Nothing is stopping. It's just more and more and more gets added. And you feel like you can't grasp or get a hold or ahead of anything. It's also feeling like the burden of what your responsibilities are too great to tell people about.
Yeah.
So it's something where you're not even talking about it. It's an internal conflict that happens.
You know, I think about an extreme case of burnout for me. And since then, I have learned how when I feel it coming on, when I feel like I'm getting to that level, I've learned now how to pull back so that I don't get there because I was physically hurt. So we were in a long, long, long hospital stay, and I wouldn't leave because it was just really bad, and I didn't want to leave. I didn't realize, and I'm not kidding you, I didn't realize I had been in that room for 3 weeks. I'd just been inside those walls. And I was sleeping, and it was the middle of the night, and my son called out to me really urgently. And so, it shook me. And I jumped up really, really quick, ran over to the bed, and I felt really, really dizzy. And I said, "What do you need?" And he was asking for some help to do something. And I said, "Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry. I'm not feeling the best." And so I stood up to go back to lay down. And that was the last thing I remembered. And when I came to, they said, "So you need to go to emergency. We're going to take you. We're going to put you in a wheelchair. And after emergency, if you're discharged, you need to go home and stay there. Do not come back. You are exhausted." And it just didn't hit me. I mean, I didn't think about it. You just do what you think you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you keep going, no matter what those signs are. Keep going and keep going. The signs are there for a reason. It's innate. It's a part of our defense mechanism for our bodies.
Yes.
It's telling you slow down. It's telling you sit yourself down somewhere, right?
Right.
But I kept going and kept going and kept going, and I was there on the floor.
I think for us as moms, sometimes we think as long as I'm with my child, nothing else matters.
Yes.
Self doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And you can forget to do things that are normal functioning things.
Yes.
Because you just are thinking about your child and what they need.
Yeah.
So you forget all of those necessities that need to take place for yourself. I haven't been to that point, but I've been to the point where I didn't want to get out of bed because the day just seemed too hard, too difficult. And I was like, I could just sleep. I think of a time when I didn't know I was burnt out, but I remember opening my door and my sister was on the other side and she was like, "You don't look the same." She was like, "When was the last time you got your hair done? When was the last time you went outside?"
Wow.
And I hadn't really realized that I had been inside
Yeah.
day after day. And so it was a wake-up call.
Let's step back and talk about before you get there. So I have some routines that I have put in place to really safeguard myself. Because I have this strange fear of getting too low. I just feel like I may not come back. So one thing I do is every night I look at the next day's schedule. I look at my calendar, I see what's on it, and I see if there's something I can take off. Is there something I can remove? Or, move or whatever.
Or delay.
Delay, exactly. So that's one of the things that I do. Another is I plan off time way ahead of time because it gives me something to look forward to. And I notice that really lifts me. So if I start planning a trip, I'm planning a trip now that's like 18 months out. So, I just plan because it really gives me something to work toward. What are some of the things you do to safeguard?
To safeguard, I've had to learn to go to my own doctor's appointments.
Really good.
Because there was a time when I was like, well, everybody else needs to go to their appointments. They need to do
Yeah.
what makes them healthy. And I would prioritize all of those things first, and things in my life would slip. And they started to really slip to the point where, my doctor had a conversation with me like, you will not be able to take care of your daughter if you don't take care of yourself. And so now I go to those appointments. So checkups are important. They're not optional.
Do I really have to go?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I know that sometimes it's hard for someone to tell you how you're doing health-wise.
Yeah. It's hard to hear.
It's hard to hear.
Yeah.
It can be.
Yeah.
And then, sometimes we just don't like finding a sitter to go to appointments. So you have to try different things. And
Yeah.
I've definitely done the trial and error. But it's also letting dad help. Dad doesn't always, you may not be in a relationship where you're partnering with somebody. It may
Right.
be a co-parenting relationship, but allowing that other person to help and not thinking they have to do it your way.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing about dealing with sickle cell disease, sickle cell is just so unpredictable. You don't have a clue when it's going to hit, how hard it's going to hit, how long it's going to hit. You don't have a clue. And we're not talking week to week. We're talking minute to minute sometimes. We're good if it's hour to hour. So it's chaotic. It's chaotic. And so that disease itself can create chaos. And then if you're not together outside of the disease, it's layered and it's more complex than it has to be.
Yes, and to your point, I think there's some times when we learn all the different things that are happening within sickle cell disease and how it's so complex because it impacts all the different organs in the body.
Yeah.
And so we think about all the possibilities, all the complications, and we can overwhelm ourselves.
Yes.
Because we've overthought this thing. And sometimes you have to say, I'm willing to take it day by day. What comes, and I'll handle that when we get there. Not, I'm going to overthink it.
Yeah, you can't try to swallow the whole thing at once. You just can't. You will be overwhelmed and you will burn out quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think our kids are watching us and how we handle the hard times. We have to show them how to deal with the stress that life brings us and try to deal with it in a way that's healthy, where we're still able to do things that are productive. And I think we model that.
Yeah.
We show them what that looks like. Do you have anything that you do on a routine basis that really keeps you in check personally when it comes to burnout?
Yeah. When I begin to feel more tired than usual and there doesn't seem to be a reason. So if I've not, been going for days and not getting enough rest, or if I'm up late and then up early and all of that, those are reasons why you might be tired. If there are none of those real reasons, then I have to look at what's going on and I do an internal check. And for me, it requires being very still, very quiet, and just really reflecting like my last, say, month and what has brought me to this.
When I think about routines, what popped into my mind immediately was remembering to eat.
Okay.
I think when I became a mom, I was so consumed with those tasks. I, in the early stages, forgot to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And now I try to, even if I'm not hungry at
Mm-hmm.
breakfast, eat something.
Mm-hmm.
It can be something small, but don't just go long periods of time.
Yeah, so that's never been a problem. Even when I'm sick, it's not a problem. But I hear you, and you're using eating because that's specific to you.
Right.
But what I hear is that it can be something that is really basic,
Basic, yes.
and we do forget sometimes the basics when we're at burnout or when we're close to burnout, when we're just kind of at that high level of stress.
Right.
Yeah. I have to credit my son for teaching me about the power of fresh air. So when he's not feeling the best, or if he's just a little overwhelmed with life, he says, "Mom, going to take a walk." So every now and then, he'll say, "Why don't you come out? You look a little stressed. Why don't you come out?"
It's your own kids, right?
Right. It's always in your house. And it's true. You get outside, you breathe in the fresh air, you're opening your lungs, and those endorphins get to moving around. And it's like, oh, things are pretty good.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is huge for me is getting sleep.
Mm.
So it may not mean that I'm, getting 8 hours at night. I think sometimes that's unrealistic,
Mm-hmm.
but trying to factor in a time to nap if possible. And I know that can also be very difficult for people, but for me, it may not be where I'm closing my eyes and napping,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to a quiet place. So for
Yes.
me, like maybe doing the dishes by myself,
Mm-hmm.
that doing something. So some people, they can't do anything. They just need to wind all the way down. But I can rejuvenate while doing some light things.
Mm.
And so I think it's important to kind of figure out what pulls you out
Yeah.
of the difficult times.
Yeah.
And being willing to surrender to that when you need it most.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have you had to learn how to set boundaries with others
Mm.
in order to stay clear of burnout?
Yeah. Yeah, I've had to learn. They say that no is a complete sentence. And it is, and it has become a complete sentence for me. And it took me a long time to get there. For certain people, for certain obligations. I just felt like, I don't know, I had to do it. I just had to do it. Like I felt like I would let the person down or let the people down. And what I learned is that it's not about letting them down. Number one, if you're clear about it and you're honest about it, you're not no-showing, you're letting them know. It's not about letting them down. It's about holding yourself up.
When it comes to boundaries, that's been one of the hardest pieces of caregiving for me because I like to do things for others.
Yeah.
But I have so much on my plate.
Mm-hmm.
I can't always say yes.
Yeah.
And boundaries has been something I've had to research. Just like I researched sickle cell disease,
Wow.
I've had to really learn about it.
Wow.
And learn that it is okay to have boundaries. And I don't have to be a habitual volunteer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is okay to say no.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to say wait.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit later.
Maybe
But
not.
not at all. But it takes a process.
Yeah.
And I think it comes easier for some people than others. I was raised in a community where I was taught you always do for others. You
Yeah.
always put others before yourself.
Yeah.
And in some ways I've had to unlearn that
Yeah.
because that's not the best for me.
Yeah.
And that's been hard because it kind of goes against a whole lifestyle of
Yes.
learning.
Oh, my love language is acts of service. So absolutely. I get it 1,000%. And I had a hard time saying no. But once I got it, it works really well. Boundaries are not only okay, boundaries are necessary.
Boundaries are necessary. Say it again, Patrice.
Boundaries are necessary.
All right.
For sure. I mean, you got to have them to keep yourself safe. Protect your peace. I'm glad that we had this discussion today about burnout. It's real. And I think it happens to folks more than they're willing to say. And I want people to know that if you feel the burnout, if you feel like you're there, it's okay to pull back. It's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to set those boundaries. It's okay and it's good. And you need it. You have to do it. Burnout is not sustainable. So I'm just here to encourage someone that if that's what you're feeling, if you're feeling like you're at the edge, if you're feeling like you're at your highest level of stress, take a step back. Take a step back. Bring it back down. It'll be okay. Whatever it is can wait till tomorrow. It will be okay.
I like that now there are many different healthcare providers who ask caregivers, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Do you have food to eat? They ask some of the very most basic questions there are, but I think it's really important and it's necessary. And so to caregivers who are experiencing burnout, find someone you trust and be willing to allow them into your space to assist you. Because not everybody can handle this alone. You may need to have someone help you.
I'd like to just remind folks who are listening to look out for the next episode. We look forward to y'all joining us again.
Until next time.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. If you liked this episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a new one. You can find all episodes of the Walking with Warriors podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and walkingwithwarriors.com.
We'll be back next time with our take on maintaining our sense of self. In the meantime, you can find tips on prioritizing self-care on walkingwithwarriors.com. See you next time.